This is Jacqueline Price, aka Rich Sister, coming on with you live tonight. Sorry, first of all, my apologies for starting the show a little late. Sorry, I got caught up because I noticed Candace Camille, the one who is, the creator of the Plank Talk Challenge. I knew she was on, so I wanted to catch her for a few minutes. I happened to notice that she was on, and I just wanted to catch her live for a few minutes. In fact, if you want to catch it, Candace Camille, go to her page. She's on for I don't know how many more minutes. If you want to know a little bit about the one who created the Plank Talk Challenge that I've been doing for 138 days, marking today. So if you want to catch her real quick, go to her page, Candace Camille. She'll be on for the next, I don't know how many minutes. She may be maybe wrapping things up now. She may stay on for another, maybe, I'm going to guess 10 or 15 minutes or so. So, may want to catch her if you want to find out what all of this, or just go to her page at any time, or to her website at CandaceCamille.com and find out what she's all about, okay? But on to what I said, this what this live is going to be about. Now, let me make it clear. This is a special live because this is not what I usually do. As you can see from the description below, this is a special live because we have an election out here in California coming up on June the 5th. I don't know if anybody else like me got your ballots. And this is for our statewide direct primary election coming up June the 5th. This is where we vote for the governor and lieutenant governor, and we vote for secretary of state, and we vote for senators and all that good stuff. This is our, once again, statewide, for California, statewide direct primary election coming up June the 5th. And you may want to know what prompted me to do this show, because please know this is not my usual area of expertise. You know, when I do my show, Thoughts for Vision, that is a motivational and inspirational tip. And that's where I usually keep it. That's my area of, what I have to offer you and all that good stuff. Lord knows I am not no kind of political analysis or analyst. I'm trying to say it right. Political analyst or nothing like that. This is not my area of expertise. I don't know, maybe my cohort Jerome Esprit or somebody like that will jump onto this live. That's his area of expertise. Or any of my cohorts from the serious side. This is their area of being serious. So maybe one of them will catch this live and jump on, because that was part of what kind of perked me to doing this topic, because they're always, of course, on the serious side talking about the current issues of the day, which one of them, a constant current issue, has been on the show lately, of this person that we have in the White House. And I'm going to be nice and keep it cool. See, I really thought I was going to have to put a I really thought I was going to have to put a sidebar on this show for the Christians. See, Christians, in fact, I may need to still kind of sidebar you. I'm going to try to keep this show on the up and up like I usually do. I'm going to try to keep it Christian. It's a little hard when we talking about these issues. So maybe I still need to give you a sort of a sidebar on this live. That's all I got to say. And Christians, it may become a time where you may have to leave this live. I'm going to try to keep it cool. That's why I thank God for guidance. Because, see, I knew I was going to use stuff in the Bible. And he really, like, showed me some. I knew I was going to come from this line of the Bible. So, you all know we going to be cool when it comes to Bible. Okay? But I just want to just encourage you all. Because you see from the presidential election what happens when you don't vote. Because my cohorts from the serious side was talking along this same line on the show yesterday. I didn't listen to the whole show, but the first that first set where they was talking about our lackadaisical attitude when it comes to voting. Now, let me share with you my testimony before we get into it. Because I admit too, like J. Raw was talking on the show yesterday. See, I admit the same thing. I didn't always have the right attitude either when it comes to voting. See, when I registered to vote, it was actually the year, because I registered to vote in the year 1990. Now, that was the year that I was to turn 21. But I wasn't 21 as of yet. My birthday hadn't come. My birthday is in August, and I registered to vote in that year in February. And I'll never forget it. I was around the, for those of you who are in California, I was near the corner of La Brea and Rodeo. I was near the corner, see it's coming. I was near the corner of La Brea and Rodeo, and somebody had along that Plaza Strip area, they had a setup for people to register to vote. And that's how I registered to vote. That was back in February of 1990. That was the year that I was to turn 21, but I wasn't as yet 21 because my birthday hadn't came. My birthday's in August, so it was in February of 1990. So I was still 20. So I didn't register to vote right away at the age of 18. And part of the reason was, at the time, having a my voting doesn't matter attitude. See, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of having that same attitude. You know, like I said, I didn't register until I was 20. And even then, I just did it because it was there. See, had that not been there, or if I still maybe had my lackadaisical attitude on that day, I probably wouldn't have registered. But I don't know. It was just there. I don't know. Maybe the person who was running that was just so convincing that I decided to register. And I really still had that lackadaisical attitude until Clinton came along. The Clinton campaign came along, and then of course then it was like rock the vote. That you know, that was a little campaign where everybody was really trying to rally around and get you to vote. You know, back then it was the rock the vote, and well, it got rocked all the way to the point where Clinton got elected. And that was the first real experience of really kind of understanding that my vote mattered. Because I admit, I had a wrong attitude about voting for too long. Where that's why I didn't register right away at 18. It wasn't until I was 20. And that was probably because, like I said, it's just somehow maybe the person who was running that was very convincing. Because you can imagine before that, obviously it was a lot of times where I saw somebody registering people to vote, but it didn't interest me. Part because of my attitude about it. The good old voting doesn't matter attitude. But I don't know. All I can say is maybe it was something that that person said to me that day that just sparked enough of my interest to where I at least went on ahead and registered. But I really had the wrong attitude for the longest time of my voting doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Well, I don't know how many times from Sunday in these last few years, these last, because what, that was 1992 when Clinton got elected. And here it is, 2018. 2000, so we're talking over 20 years. Say it like that. It's about to, in a few minutes, before you know it, it'll be 30 years. You know. 2022 will be here before you know it. Before you know it. Okay. Actually, that helped me with the math doing that. So it's been, that helped me with the math doing it like that. So it's exactly 26 years from that point where I, actually 20, was 26 years from when Clinton got elected, but 28, add 2 more years, 28 years since I registered to vote. It's been 28 years. Let's just go from that point. It's been 28 years. Like I said, it was 1990, so 28 years it's been since I registered to vote. And I've seen a lot in the 28 years that's proof positive that your vote matters. From the election of Clinton to the elections of Clinton, I should say, to the elections of President Barack Obama, even to this person we got in the White House now. Of course, he's proof. This latest this latest one is, of course, proof positive of what happens when you don't vote. When you sit on your butt and don't vote. That's what he's proof positive of. When you don't vote. When you are not aware. Where you are uninformed of what's happening. Or if you're the least bit informed, but you don't care. Maybe truthfully that's some of your cases. You're the least bit informed, but you don't care. Whichever or you had enough times in your lifetime, and the 28 years is just giving you my time since when I registered up until now. Now, some of you had way longer than I have, depending on what age you are. Some of you had way longer than I have to see how your voting matters. Okay? It's when you don't vote. When you don't vote, you can't complain about what's happening. When you don't vote, you cannot complain about what's happening. You can't complain. You cannot complain about what's happening if you don't vote. I don't want to hear nothing from your mouth when you're not voting. See, I admit, I was guilty of that at one point in time. And I like going back to the serious side yesterday. I didn't hear it all. I'm going to listen to the rest of the show later. But I just listened to that first set. In fact, I listened to it before getting on here with you. I'll listen to the rest in a minute because I had to be at church early yesterday and didn't get to hear it all. But that first set, see, I like what my cohort, Mr. Elias, said about even though he had just had surgery and couldn't drive. They had an election. He's from Indiana. He lives in Indiana. And they had an election out there where he is. And even though he had just had surgery, even though he couldn't drive, he still made it to that poll. He still made it to the poll. Despite him having surgery, despite him not being able to drive, he still went to that poll and voted. He didn't use his surgery or not being able to drive as an excuse. He still went and made his vote count. And he was talking about how the turnout at the polls was horrible. And he was just simply asking the question, what's it going to take to get people to vote? What's it going to take? You know? He was talking about, do you have to offer some, do you have to offer the latest Air Jordans at the polls to get people? Yes, some people you probably have to. You know, pass out some food for less gift cards. You know what? He was just like, what is it going to take to get people out to the polls? What is it going to take for people to stop being uninformed? I mean, you got to ask the question for yourself. What is it? I mean, does something got to be offered at the polls along with your vote? You know, make a vote. Here's a gift card to something. What, they got to pass out gift cards at the polls to make you vote? See, we know the truth to that, don't we? Some of you, that's what it will take. What I'm going to get out of it. It's like we got to pass out, you know. Is that what we got to do? Offer stuff? When you should be wanting to, as your civic duty, you should be wanting to get to those polls every chance you get. That's how your voice is heard, through those votes. See, you can't complain. You can't sit up here and complain about what's going on or not going on if you don't vote. You can't complain. But it's nothing new under the sun, right? Nothing new under the sun. And please know, this stuff is biblical. Yes, touch your neighbor and say biblical. See, nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. You know, nothing new under the sun. Let me prove it to you. Nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Let me prove it to you. I'm going to read these whole chapters. Coming from 1 Samuel, the book of 1 Samuel. I'm just going to read these 3 full chapters. 3 full chapters. And I want you to hear it and see if it sounds familiar to you. Especially with this mess that's going on right now in the White House. Just listen to these 3 chapters. I'm reading 3 whole chapters to you. Coming out of the book of 1 Samuel, because nothing is new under the sun. So, book of 1 Samuel. I'm going to read the whole 8th chapter. I'm going to read the whole of chapter 8 first. Chapter 8 first. And I'm reading all of this in the New Living Translation. I'm going to give you some plain English version so you're not thrown off by the these, thises, and thous. I'm reading it in English version. Plain English. So out of New Living Translation. 1 Samuel chapter 8. I'm reading the whole chapter. This is the first whole chapter I'm reading. As Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, his oldest sons, held court in Beersheba. But they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. Oops. They accepted bribes and perverted justice. Oops. Finally, all of the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matter with Samuel. Look, they told him, you are now old, and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all the other nations have. Samuel was displeased with their requests and went to the Lord for guidance. Do everything they say to you, the Lord replied, for it is me that they are rejecting. Let me read that part again. Do everything they say to you, the Lord replied, for it is me they are rejecting, not you. They don't want me to be their king any longer. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods. And now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will reign over them. So Samuel passed on the Lord's warning to the people who were asking him for a king. This is how a king will reign over you, Samuel said. The king will draft your sons and assign them to his chariots and his charioteers, making them run before his chariots. Oh boy. Some will be generals and captains in his army. Some will be forced to plow in his fields and harvest his crops. And some will make his weapons and chariot equipment. Okay? The king will take your daughters from you and force them to cook and bake and make perfumes for him. He will take away the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his own officials. Oh boy. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your grape harvest and distribute it among his officers and attendants. Oh boy, maybe. He will take your male and female slaves and demand the finest of your cattle and donkeys for his own use. Oops, wait a minute. He will demand 1/10 of your flocks, and you will be his slaves. Oh, Jesus, help us all. When that day comes, you will beg for relief from this king you are demanding. But then the Lord will not help you. Oh, Lord Jesus, help us all. Help you all. Did touch your neighbor. Did you hear what she said? Did you? Oops. Oopsie oops. Does that sound familiar? Oopsie oops. But the peoples. Touch your neighbor, say, but the peoples. But the peoples refused to listen to Samuel's warning. Even so, we still want a king, they said. We want to be like the nations around us. Our king will judge us and lead us into battle. So Samuel repeated the Lord to the Lord. I'm sorry, let me say it again. So Samuel repeated to the Lord what the people had said. And the Lord replied, do as they say, and give them a king. Then Samuel agreed and sent the people home. Sounds familiar? But let's read on, shall we? Let's read on. Let's go to the next chapter that I'm going to read. Let's go to the next chapter that I'm going to read. 1 Samuel chapter 12. Like I said, 1 Samuel chapter 12. Okay? Then Samuel addressed all Israel. I have done as you asked and given you a king. Your king is now your leader. I stand here before you, an old gray-haired man, and my sons serve you. I have served as your leader from the time I was a boy to this very day. Now testify against me in the presence of the Lord and before his anointed one. Whose ox or donkey have I stolen? Have I ever cheated any of you? Have I ever oppressed you? Have I ever taken a bribe and perverted justice? Tell me, and I will make right whatever I have done wrong. No, they replied. You have never cheated or oppressed us, and you have never taken even a single bribe. The Lord and his anointed one are my witnesses today, Samuel declared, that my hands are clean. Yes, he is a witness, they replied. It was the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron, Samuel continued. He brought your ancestors out of the land of Egypt. Now stand here quietly before the Lord as I remind you of all the great things the Lord has done for you and your ancestors. When the Israelites was in Egypt and cried out to the Lord, he sent Moses and Aaron to rescue them from Egypt and bring them into this land. But the people soon forgot about the Lord their God, so he handed them over to Sisera, the commander of Hazor's army, and also to the Philistines and to the king of Moab, who fought against them. They cried out to the Lord again and confessed, "We have sinned by turning away from the Lord and worshiping the images of Baal and Ashtoreth. But we will worship you and you alone if you rescue us from our enemies." Then the Lord sent Gideon, Bedan, Jephthah, and Samuel to save you, and you lived in safety. But when you were afraid of Nahash, the king of Ammon, you came to me and said that you wanted a king to reign over you, even though the Lord your God was already your king. All right, here's the king you have chosen. You asked for him, and the Lord has granted your request. Now, if you fear and worship the Lord and listen to his voice, and if you do not rebel against the Lord's commands, then both you and your king will show that you recognize the Lord as your God. But if you rebel against the Lord's commands and refuse to listen to him, then his hand will be as heavy upon you as it was upon your ancestors. Now stand here and see the great thing the Lord is about to do. You know that it does not rain at this time of the year during the wheat harvest. I will ask the Lord to send thunder and rain today. Then you will realize how wicked you have been in asking the Lord for a king. So Samuel called to the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day. And all of the people were terrified of the Lord and of Samuel. Pray to the Lord your God for us, or we will die, they all said to Samuel. For now we have added to our sins by asking for a king. Don't be afraid, Samuel reassured them. You have certainly done wrong, but make sure now that you worship the Lord with all your heart and don't turn your back on him. Don't go back to worshiping worthless idols that cannot help or rescue you. They are totally useless. The Lord will not abandon his people because that will dishonor his great name. For it has pleased the Lord to make you his very own people. As for me, I will certainly not sin against the Lord by ending my prayers for you. And I will continue to teach you what is good and right. But be sure to fear the Lord and faithfully serve him. Think of all the wonderful things he has done for you. But if you continue to sin, you and your king will be swept away. The last chapter I'm going to read. 1 Samuel chapter 15. This is 1 Samuel chapter 15. One day, Samuel said to Saul, who was king at the time. Saul was the king at the time, okay? In fact, this is the king that they chose. Saul was the king that the people chose, okay? Saul was the king that the people chose. So, like I said, 1 Samuel chapter 15. Once again, reading the whole chapter. One day, Samuel said to Saul, "It was the Lord who told me to anoint you as king of his people, Israel. Now listen to this message from the Lord. This is what the Lord of heaven's armies has declared. I have decided to settle accounts with the nation of Amalek for opposing Israel when they came from Egypt. Now go and completely destroy the entire Amalekite nation. Men, women, children, babies, cattle, sheep, goats, camels, and donkey. Other everything. The entire. He wasn't supposed to leave nobody left. The kibises, the parentheses, and the animuses. He was supposed to completely destroy them. But let's continue. So Saul mobilized his army at Telam. There was 200,000 soldiers from Israel and 10,000 men from Judah. Then Saul and his army went to a town of the Amalekites and lay in wait in the valley. Saul sent this warning to the Kenites: "Move away from where the Amalekites live, or you will die with them, for you showed kindness to all of the people of Israel when they came up from Egypt." So the Kenites packed up and left. Then Saul slaughtered the Amalekites from Havilah all of the way to Sur, east of Egypt. He captured Agag, the Amalekite king, but completely destroyed everyone else. Saul and his men spared Agag's life and kept the best of the sheep and goat, the cattle, the fat calves, and the lambs, everything in fact that appealed to them. They destroyed only what was worthless or of poor quality, which was not the instruction. Then the Lord said to Samuel, I am sorry that I have ever made Saul king, for he has not been loyal to me and has refused to obey my command. Samuel was so deeply moved when he heard this that he cried out to the Lord all night. Early the next morning, Samuel went to find Saul. Someone told him Saul went to the town of Carmel to set up a monument to himself. Then he went on to Gilgal. When Samuel finally found him, Saul greeted him cheerfully. May the Lord bless you, he said. I have carried out the Lord's command. Then what is all the bleating of sheep and goats and lowing of cattle that I hear? Saul demanded. Samuel was like, look, I hear the cows, man. I hear the sheep. I hear the goats. I saw the pails of milk in the corner that you milked before I got here, obviously. I saw the pails I saw the pails of skim milk, low-fat milk, even chocolate milk. I saw the pails in the corner, man. Came from the cows over there and from them sheep and from them goats. What's up? Saw the milk. Don't play with me. What's up? And here we go. It's true that the army spared the best of the sheep, goats, and cattle, Saul admitted. But they are going to sacrifice them to the Lord your God. We have destroyed everything else. Then Samuel said to Saul, stop. Listen to what the Lord told me last night. What did he tell you? Saul asked. And Samuel told him, although you may think little of yourself, you are not the leader of the tribes of Israel. The Lord has anointed you king of Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and told you, go and completely destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, until they are all dead. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Why did you rush the plunder and do what was evil in the Lord's sight? But I did obey the Lord, Samuel insisted. I carried out the mission he gave me. I brought back King Agag, but I destroyed everything else. Then my troops brought in the best of the sheep, goats, and cattle, and plunder to sacrifice to the Lord your God of Gilgal, which once again was not the instruction. But Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission is better than offering the fat of rams. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, and stubbornness as bad as worshiping idols. So because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Then Saul admitted to Samuel, yes, I have sinned. I have disobeyed your instructions and the Lord's command, for I was of, catch this. Let me start this one over again. Then Saul admitted to Samuel, yes, I have sinned. I have disobeyed your instructions and the Lord's commands, for I was afraid of the people and did what they demanded. Sounds familiar? Let me read that one more time. Let's read it again, Shannon. Let's read it again. Then Saul admitted to Samuel. Yes, I have sinned. I have destroyed I have disobeyed your instructions and the Lord's command, for I was afraid of the people and did what they demanded. But now please forgive my sin and come back with me so that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel replied, I will not go back with you. Since you have rejected the Lord's command, he has rejected you as king of Israel. As Samuel turned to go, Saul tried to hold him back and tore the hem of his robe. And Samuel said to him, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to someone else, one who is better than you. And he who is the glory of Israel will not lie, nor will he change his mind, for he is not human that he should change his mind. Then Saul pleaded again, I know I have sinned, but please at least honor me before the elders of my people and before Israel by coming back with me so I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel finally agreed and went back with him, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Then Samuel said, Bring King Agag to me. Agag arrived full of hope, for he thought, surely the worst was over, and I have been spared. But Samuel said, as your sword has killed the sons of many mothers, now your mother will be childless. And Samuel cut Agag to pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. Then Samuel went home to Ramah, and Saul returned to the house of Gibeah of Saul. Samuel never went to meet with Saul again, but he mourned constantly for him. And the Lord was very sorry he had ever made Saul king of Israel. I think I read enough to you right there. And some of you, if you're familiar with the Bible, you kind of know the rest. I'll give you sort of the gist. You know, the other man that he had in mind, of course, was David. David eventually became king after Saul. I mean, the bulk of you, if you followed the Bible, you know the kind of the rest. You know, David became king after Saul. But does any of that sound familiar, what I just read? I'm going to leave you alone with those 3 chapters. Obedience is better than sacrifice. You know, let's read that part again. That was 15 verse 22. Let's read that part again. Actually, 22 and 23. Let's read those verses again. 1 Samuel 15, 22 and 23. Let's read that again. But Samuel replied, what is more pleasing to the Lord, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, or your obedience to his voice? Listen, obedience is better than sacrifice, and submission better than the offering of the let me read that part again. And submission is better than offering the fat of rams. Rebellion is as sinful as witchcraft, and stubbornness as bad as worshiping idols. So because you have rejected the command of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. And he eventually, like I said, David became king. And that's after many of trials where David served Saul in his palace. The trials that David went through, because he was eventually assigned to serve Saul. And he was very loyal to Saul. Despite all of the attempts that Saul tried to kill him and was searching for him. At one point, David ran from Saul, and Saul was on the hunt for all that. He remained loyal to Saul. Although, of course, eventually he became king. David became king. Despite all of the, trials he went through with Saul. And thank God he made that serious connection with his son, Jonathan. I mean, they were tied to the hip. Him and his son, Jonathan, was tied to the hip. And of course, that time in the Bible where David and Jonathan had to part ways because Saul was on the hunt for him, looking for him. And that's where they kind of, David and Jonathan, although they had this tight bond and they were forever brothers because they loved each other so much. But there was a time where when Saul was on the hunt for him, David, as much as they loved each other, they were like, look, my father's on the hunt for you. So I understand you having to leave and, but know that I love you and all that good stuff. I mean, it's really a powerful story if you go all into it. But those 3 chapters that I gave you was enough to make you understand. The whole point of reading those 3 chapters was to make you understand that nothing is new under the sun. But did any of that ring familiar to you with what's going on right now in the White House? Did any of that ring familiar to you? Any of it? Any of it? A touch, a tad, a little bit, a little bit. See, nothing is new under the sun. We want a king, i.e. in this day. We want Trump. Okay. We want Trump. See, somebody said, not me, not Jacqueline Price. Somebody's sisters said, we want Trump. And the Lord was the same way. Okay, you want Trump? You got him. You got all of them. You don't get to pick the parts of Trump that you see, you don't get to ask for Trump and pick the parts of him that you like. No, you want Trump? You got him. Same concept, same thing. Nothing new under the sun, huh? See, even some people that hollered, I want Trump for various reasons. Various reasons. Even some of you this color hollered. See, some of you this color hollered, I want Trump for your various reasons. I don't see why, but your various reasons. Yeah, some of us this color. And of course, even worse, some of y'all sat at home and didn't vote at all, which was still a vote for Trump. See, whether you actually voted for him or you sat home and didn't vote, either one of those was a vote for Trump. Oh, well, some of you hollered enough that you wanted Trump. Well, you got him. Just like back in them Bible days, they hollered about a king. Well, they got him too. See, you got what you asked for. Some of you got what you asked for. You got him. You wanted Trump, you got him. But you can't just take the parts of him that you like. You got to take them all. And see, now that you see the all, now some of you like, oops, we really put him in? Oops. Yeah, big oops. So, with all that said, make your voice heard. Make your voice heard. And it doesn't matter which election it is, whether it's your local, your national, your district. It doesn't matter what level you need to make your voice heard. You need to make it heard. And for us, California, our next opportunity to make our voice heard is coming up June the 5th. This is our statewide direct primary election, where you're electing your governor and your senators and all that good stuff. No matter what level, make your voice heard. Make your voice heard. That's the one power that you have. Make your voice heard, no matter what level. Make your voice heard. It's what I had to learn, so I'm sharing it with you. Make your voice heard. Have nothing to complain about when you don't. You have nothing to complain about when you don't make your voice heard. Nothing. Nothing to complain about. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say when you don't vote. Not a thing. You have no reason to complain when you don't vote. You have no reason to even form your lips to try to complain when you don't vote. That is your power. Voting is your power, your civic duty. That's your power. That's your power. Your power is in your vote. Don't let another opportunity go by. We're not exercising that right. That people, countless number of people then died for you to have. That's just fact. You may be sick of it, but that's just fact. Tons of people died for the right that you're just throwing away. Let me say that one more time. People have died for the right that you're throwing away. Throwing away. It's a slap in their faces. Everybody that has died for this right to vote, you slapping them in the face. It was important enough for them where they were willing to die for it. And you're just sitting by slapping them in the face. Each and every time where there's an election that comes around, you just slapping them in the face. Slapping them in the face. Slapping them in the face. Every time you pass up an opportunity to vote, you are slapping them in the face. Everybody that has died. See, blacks, whites, see, ain't just blacks. Blacks, whites, the whole 9 yards fought for your life, your right, fought for your right to vote. And each and every last one of them, you are slapping in the face every time you don't go and vote. Slapping them in the face. Every time you don't go vote, you're slapping them in the face. Everybody that's ever died for that right. You're slapping them in the face every time you don't vote in an election. You have nothing to complain about if you don't vote. You have nothing to complain about. I don't want to hear nothing that you're saying, frankly. See, here you come. Blah, 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 blah. Did you vote? No. I ain't going to vote. And then we about to shut the conversation down right there. I don't want to hear nothing else to come out your mouth. I don't want to hear jack else that comes out your mouth after that. The minute you start blah, 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 did you vote? That's when the dead silence comes. And from that point, it should be dead silence. Because you didn't vote. So I don't want to hear nothing you got to say, frankly, after that. So, make your voice heard, California. Your next time is June the 5th. Make your voice heard. That is all. Peace out.